Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time for another two-tire change with Big Rich. And this week, we talk Chicago street race, get you set for Sonoma, and talk about a whole bunch of little WWE type things that are going on in the world of NASCAR, as well as a silly season driver change that we're going to see as well. So we've got a lot to get into this week. Let's jump right into it with this past weekend's Xfinity race at the Chicago street track, street course, I guess they call it properly. And to the surprise of very few, Shane Van Gisbergen running for JR Motorsports, or for Junior Motorsports, excuse me, for Dale Jr., ends up winning the race far and away, actually. Connor Zilich comes in second, Sheldon Creed third, Austin Hill fourth, Nick Sanchez fifth. By the way, Austin Hill had a really good weekend. Nick Sanchez fifth, Jesse Love sixth, Sammy Smith seventh, Sam Mayer eighth, Austin Green ninth, and Brennan Poole came in 10th. Not like last week, not like week before last, where we saw a lot of the leaders in points and the people on top getting knocked out early. It was one of those deals that you had a lot of solid racing. I mean, there were cautions, there were incidents, but by the time you got to the end of the race, you only had 6 cars that were shown as out. William Sawalich got knocked out on lap 7, Anthony Alfredo on lap 28, and Taylor Gray on lap 34, as far as the big names. Parker Retzlaff, oh my gosh, another one. He gets spun around in the middle of a straightaway, and poof, it's over. Um, he this is a first 2/3 of a season that Parker Retzlaff is going to want to forget. Hopefully, I really hope that the last several races are going to be better for him, because they can't get any worse. He is just, if it wasn't for bad luck, Parker Retzlaff would have no luck at all. It's insane what this guy is going through. And most of the time, it's no fault of his own. You'll see him, excuse me, get spun, or he ends up where he just has no control, flat tire, broken suspension, things like that. And you just have to sit there and wonder. It's like, man, how frustrated must he be? If the fans are frustrated for him, how frustrated does he have to be? And he makes it look good when they interview him. He's fine. So, it's certainly a case where he hopefully has a great rest of the way, because he has sure had a lousy first 15 races of the season. Justin Allgaier came in 23rd. Not a good day for him at all. Daniel Dye 19th. Carson Kvapil, Christian Eckes 15th and 16th. So it wasn't a whole field rotten day, but there were some bad spots in there, as you can tell. Xfinity Series standings: Van Gisbergen is not full time on the Xfinity Series, so he will not. That does not put him into the playoffs. So the number of playoff drivers stays the same. You have Justin Allgaier, Austin Hill, Jesse Love, Connor Zilich, Brandon Jones, Nick Sanchez, Sammy Smith, that are already locked in. So that's your 6 guys, excuse me, that are already locked in. Outside of that, on points, Sam Mayer, Carson Kvapil, Sheldon Creed, Jeb Burton, Taylor Gray. Just barely on the outside looking in. Harrison Burton's 8 points behind. Ryan Sieg is 30 points out of that 12th spot. And then Christian Eckes is 60 out with a lot of work to do. It's going to take a win for him to get into the playoffs. Big gainers: In the Xfinity Series this week, Sheldon Creed moved up 3 spots, as did Sammy Smith. Um, the big loser in point standings was Taylor Gray. He drops 4 spots into that number 12 spot, and hanging on for dear life. So, he's got to turn it around, do a lot better this coming week. But it's another road course. So, good luck to you on that one. If you struggle as a road course driver with this circuit, you're gonna really have to make up for it the following week if you don't do anything this week coming up at Sonoma. It's kind of odd that they would have 2 road courses back to back on the NASCAR circuit, but in this particular case, they do, and it's going to be interesting on both levels, the Xfinity and on the Cup side, to see who actually, who wins these races, and how that affects the standings. So as we sit with the Cup Series, and there's a lot to talk about outside of the actual race itself. So we're going to go through the race itself real quick and get into some of these things outside of the race. And then I think we're going to talk a little F1 as well later on before we wrap things up tonight. Top 10 in qualifying, a lot of your usual characters. Shane Van Gisbergen on the pole, Michael McDowell right next to him, Carson Hocevar, Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, and Austin Dillon in the top 10. But there was also a lot of big names in the back of the field because of issues, wrecks, or whatever. Denny Hamlin qualified dead last. Chase Elliott right before him. William Byron, 39th. Bubba Wallace, 38th. Corey Heim did not qualify. He was the one guy that did not qualify for the race. Got edged out by Catherine Legg. Ricky Stenhouse started back in 32nd. So there were a lot of name drivers in the back of the field. Ty Dillon started 37th. That's not to say that you can't get through the field, but it's a whole lot harder on a road course to get through the field than it is to get through, through with front setting position. So, with all that being said, it's definitely going to be, an interesting setup to start with. We'll see how it plays out. And of course, this Chicago road course has its moments. I don't like this. We talked about this last week. I am not a fan of the Chicago street course race. I would much rather see them go back to Chicagoland, which, from what I hear, is the talk for next season. And we'll get into that a little bit after we talk about the race itself. But we also have the bracket, the in-season tournament going on with a whole lot. We talked last week about only 8 of the higher seeds moving on, including the 32nd seed, the bottom seed, Ty Dillon, moving on. So we end up with the brackets being Brad Keselowski against Ty Dillon, Bowman against Bubba Wallace, Chase Elliott against John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones versus Ricky Stenhouse, Ty Gibbs versus AJ Allmendinger, Chris Buescher against Zane Smith, Tyler Reddick against Carson Hocevar, and Ryan Preece versus Noah Gragson. So green flag hits. Michael McDowell jumps out front in turn 1. And William Byron is off the pace right out of the chute. And he reported a clutch issue. He has had the last 4 races, he has not finished better than 27th. And is absolutely 100% crazy because it's been off the wall stuff. It's not like he gets into a wreck and bites the wall, or something like that. He has a clutch issue yesterday. He has a suspension issue couple races. It's absolutely insane. And a lot of it is where he's qualifying, I think. Because if he was qualifying better, he'd be further up in the field and not get stuck in some of these things at the back. But this last month has been horrific for him. Then we get, and I can't believe I'm saying this on a road course, we get the big one. Carson Hocevar on lap 4 spins and blocks 2 of the 3 lanes on the track, which leads to a 2, 4, 6, 8 car pileup. And all those cars were pretty much cooked for the day. Brad Keselowski, Daniel Suarez, Austin Dillon, Will Brown, Todd Gilliland, all involved. Chris Buescher pits. He was in the top 5, has an electrical issue. He had reported the issue just before the caution and the red flag that came out for the wreck. Then he told his team that his car was backfiring when he cranked it up. So he goes into the pits from his top 5 spot, and they're trying to figure out what the problem is. They did finally get him back on the track before he loses a second lap, but he's already a lap down, and they never figured out what the issue is. Lap 7, you go back to green. Michael McDowell gets past SVG again. Kyle Busch runs in second, and AJ Allmendinger, who was one of my favorites to win this thing, enters the top 10. Alex Bowman spins coming out of turn 12, but gets back going. No yellow. McDowell's in the lead with about 6 laps to go in the stage. And you always, when you get to a road course and you get to within like 5 or 6 laps at the end, you have that strategy kick in. Do I come in and get fuel so that yes, it's going to cost me stage points, but at the same time, I can stay out when everybody else comes in. So you have all of that. But the guys that were starting in the rear of field, Larson worked himself up to 16th. Bubba Wallace is 17th. Hamlin and Elliott were just outside the top 20. So they were moving up. Top 10 at the end of stage 1, which Michael McDowell wins. Kyle Busch second, Tyler Reddick third, Chase Briscoe fourth, Ryan Preece fifth, Ross Chastain sixth, John Hunter Nemechek 7, Zane Smith 8, Austin Hill 9, Noah Gragson 10. Christopher Bell, too fast on pit road during all the pit stops, has to go to the back of the field. So as we are sitting, with the crash and all that kind of thing, it took out 2 cars that were in the brackets. Brad Keselowski out of the race. So the number 32 seed, Ty Dillon, advances to the Elite 8. And then Tyler Reddick advances because Carson Hocevar was knocked out of the race on that wreck. So Tyler Reddick moves to the Elite 8. So you already know 2 of the Elite 8 drivers at the end of stage 1. Go to lap 25. McDowell continues to lead. Bubba Wallace spins. And Van Gisbergen's working himself back up through the field. He's up to 8th with newer tires because he pitted he pitted before Michael McDowell and Busch. So Bubba got clipped by Larson. Wallace spins from 16th, goes all the way back to 32nd. So that knocked him out of the way for a little while. Van Gisbergen keeps moving up, gets up to the top 4 by lap 29, gets ready to pass Kyle Busch for third. They're all about 4 seconds behind Michael McDowell. AJ Allmendinger is right behind SVG, and Ryan Preece is right there with him. So you've got a lot of really good cars and a lot of really good drivers there in that top 6. Josh Berry on lap 30, though, crashes in turns 7 and 8 and can't get refired. So you're halfway through stage 2, you do the caution. Tyler Reddick's team gets him down pit road just before the caution came out. Briscoe had also pitted. They're on the same strategy as Michael McDowell. So McDowell ends up going in, and next thing he finds out is his throttle is stuck. And he pits from the lead, gets fuel and tires, and He's not sure if he's got enough gas. They're telling him max save. Do everything you can to save fuel. Don't want to run out of gas. Well, they couldn't find what was causing the issue. So now McDowell's saying that it's all the way stuck as he drives around the course and he's coming back down pit road. They go back behind the wall and it's crazy. Lap 34. Kyle Busch spins on his own through turns 7 and 8. Goes from 6th to the very back of the pack. Tell me if you've heard this story before. We talked about if Kyle Busch couldn't get out of his own way. Absolute insanity. Really honest to God is. But, you know, he's going to get it together one of these races. He really is. I thought he had a car. The way they started this race out, I honestly thought Kyle had a legit shot to win it. But be that as it is, Michael McDowell goes behind the wall. He's done. So now you've got 2 Spire Motorsports cars behind the wall. Hocevar with the wreck on lap 4, Michael McDowell with the throttle issue. Ross Chastain and some others pit on a one-stop strategy. Kyle Larson's up to 8th. 6th, Bubba Wallace is up to 18th. Buescher is back on the lead lap. He's got himself up to 23rd. And SVG leads Allmendinger by 2 seconds with 6 laps to go in the stage. Well, SVG and Allmendinger pit at the end of the stage, along with a bunch of others. So Ryan Blaney gets the stage win. Chase Briscoe 2nd, Tyler Reddick 3rd, Alex Bowman 4th, Bubba Wallace 5th, Denny Hamlin 6th, Chase Elliott 7th, John Hunter Nemechek 8, Eric Jones 9, Christopher Bell 10. So now we get ready for stage 3. Briscoe leads. He clears Tyler Reddick. And Shane Van Gisbergen's up to 4th. Trying to get past Denny Hamlin for 3rd. And is on the prowl. No questions asked. Van Gisbergen gets within a second of Chase Briscoe and Tyler Reddick with 20 laps left. Meanwhile, here comes the 71 back out on the track. McDowell is back on the track about 15 laps down. Then they get a very odd caution on lap 60. And this is one of those things that happens with street races. And it's happened in IndyCar. It's happened in Formula One. They have a caution for a spectator medical emergency. NASCAR had to get an ambulance across the track. You have no other way to do it but to open up the wall and have them go across the track. Well, the only way you can do that is if you throw the yellow. So they throw the yellow. SVG had just passed Briscoe, and some of the guys are going in to get gas at this point. Weather is starting to look a little dicey. Like, okay, we might have enough to get to the end of this race, but we might not. And if it had started raining, they had to change tires and all that kind of crap, whole different scenario. So lap 64, Austin Cindric is stalled in turn 6. I mean, stalled. Can't get anything. On the restart, Chastain, Logano, and Ricky Stenhouse had an incident with Ricky Stenhouse getting the worst of it. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. SVG, lap 66, drives away from Ty Gibbs and AJ Allmendinger. Briscoe has a tire going down. And he ran really well in the second half of the race, but that tire going down forced him on the pit road. And so that killed his chances of winning. Guess what? You always hear about when guys have an issue, they happen to find each other all the time. Alex Bowman and Bubba Wallace have a couple of beating and banging and that kind of stuff. Ends up with Wallace spinning off of Bowman down a straightaway. And it honestly looked like Wallace cut across the front of Bowman's car. So it may have been one of those deals that Wallace was trying to take out Bowman. And we'll talk about that a little later on. I told you, there was outside the race stuff as much as there was inside the race. Tyler Reddick, who ran the fastest lap of the race, moves to third, has 3 seconds to make up in 2.5 laps. Then some controversy on the last lap. Van Gisbergen wins, but he's ahead of Ty Gibbs, Tyler Reddick, as a caution flies on the final lap with Cody Ware ramming into the tire barrier in turn 6. Cody Ware hit that tire wall 3 or 4 turns before the yellow came out. Yellow comes out after the white flag flies, race over, the standings go by where you were according to the scoring pylons. The flag comes out before he passes the white flag. Reline up, green, white checker. NASCAR is catching some flack because they didn't throw the yellow when the wreck happened and Cody Ware was deemed not to be able to get out of the stack. They didn't throw it until right after SVG took the white flag. Excuse me. So, with all that, you end up with SVG winning the race, but you have to wonder, with the way that Ty Gibbs was running and the way a couple other guys were running, if they had to run a restart, would SVG have won this race? I'm not positive he would have, but that's just me. So Van Gisbergen gets the win. Ty Gibbs runs second, Tyler Reddick third, Denny Hamlin fourth. Kyle Busch comes in fifth. Real nice top 5 run for him. AJ Allmendinger sixth, Ryan Preece seventh, Alex Bowman eighth. Austin Hill in the third RCR car in this race comes in ninth after a 4th place finish in the Xfinity race on Saturday. Ross Chastain rounds out the top 10. Joey Logano ends up 11, Ryan Blaney 12, Kyle Larson 13, Chase Elliott 16. Ty Dillon was 20th, the 32 seed in the brackets. Chase Briscoe 23rd. That flat tire knocked him way back in the field. Christopher Bell 24th. Bubba Wallace 28th. Michael McDowell 32nd. Carson Hocevar 35th. Brad Kay 37th. And William Byron dead last 40th. So, with all this being done and said, SVG, he hasn't done well on the ovals, but gets his second road course win. So we still have the same number of guys. With those, we have the 11. You have Van Gisbergen, Barry, Cindric, Logano, Briscoe, Chastain, Blaney, Bell, Hamlin, Larson, Elliott, and Byron. 12 drivers that have a win. Number 1 in points outside of that and in the playoffs as we speak is Tyler Reddick. Alex Bowman's right behind him, Chris Buescher and Joey Logano. That's the cutoff line for the playoffs. Bubba Wallace is 28 points down. Ryan Preece is 2 behind him. AJ Allmendinger is 40 behind him. And then Kyle Busch is 3 behind that. Big winner on the points. Ty Gibbs moved up 5 spots as a result of this race. Kyle Busch moved up 4. Shane Van Gisbergen also moved up 5, but his points don't matter. He's already locked in. He's already won. The big losers in the points, Carson Hocevar, Austin Cindric, and Josh Berry lost 3 spots. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. lost 4. So a big drop for a lot of guys. As we get ready to go to another road course, different style though. The street course is narrower than the regular road course, which is what Sonoma is. And it's going to be really fun to see what goes on this coming week. The in-season challenge, as we sit, it will be Ty Dillon versus Alex Bowman in the one bracket. John Hunter Nemechek versus Eric Jones in the other. Ty Gibbs versus Zane Smith in the third bracket, and Ryan Preece versus Tyler Reddick in the fourth bracket. So the highest seed that's still involved in this thing is the sixth. You have the sixth, the eighth, the 12th, the 15th, 14th, 20th, 23rd, and 32nd seeds are still left in this thing. This is going to be crazy as it continues. So, some news to talk about as we sit. Some controversy coming out. We talked a little bit about that last lap. You would have thought this was a short course, a short track race. You got angry drivers out there, tempers flaring. All Joey Logano. I mean, I think Joey Logano is a putz to start with. And those of you Logano fans out there, I'm sorry. I think he's a putz from the start. But him and Ross Chastain, who I'm not the biggest fan of either, Joey is just absolutely holding court on Ross Chastain after the race. Logano said that Chastain admitted he turned him intentionally at the end of the race, and Chastain should be fined. What really gets Logano especially mad is that Austin Cindric, who is his teammate, started the accident. So it was one of those deals. He's going absolutely off on Ross Chastain. I mean, up one side of the man and down the other. And it wasn't even Chastain's fault first. And then secondly, it was his teammate that actually started the whole thing. So, and I'm sure that as much of a stink as Logano was making, I'm willing to bet you the apologies are not going to be as public or as verbose as you would think, So I don't know. Then you've got the Bubba Wallace and Alex Bowman thing. They were having a talk after the race. Bowman said he shipped us into turn 12, ran us into the fence in turn 1, ran us into the fence off turn 2, and then we sort of pinballed each other, and he ended up on the worst side of it. We were trying to go straight off the corner. I don't know why we did that. I wasn't expecting that to happen or get raced like that, but we did. So, I'm sure that NASCAR is going, if they didn't do it yesterday, they will in the next couple of days, quote, call them into the hauler, have the discussion, say, look, guys, this crap's got to stop. Can't have this happening. We've got a couple of races coming up where it's going to be super high speeds, super high danger with Indianapolis and with Daytona. We don't need anybody taking any crap out on each other whenever you're going 200 to 195, 200 miles an hour. The crap stops now. And of course they'll do their, yeah, okay, fine, but forgiving is one thing. Forgetting is a whole other game. And it doesn't necessarily happen. So, is this the last year of the street race? Me personally, I hope so. The deal with the Chicago Parks Department was a 3-year deal with some options, which this was the third race. NASCAR appears ready to potentially move it to San Diego, but still have it be a street race. This is not open wheel. This is not IndyCar. I don't understand why NASCAR is trying to put more and more road courses into this thing. I do understand that road courses test the flexibility and the ability of the driver to handle different tracks. They run short tracks, they run intermediates, they run super speedways, and they're all ovals. I get that. If they want to run 1 or 2 road courses during the course of the season as a novelty, fine. When you get to the point that you're running 15% of your schedule on road courses, I reinforce the fact this is not IndyCar. This is not Formula One. These guys are supposed to, the NASCAR series was built on ovals. You can just as easily expand on ovals, but you don't have to expand using road courses. Go to San Diego. That's fine. But don't create a street course. It's bananas. Trackhouse Racing Justin Marks talked about this. He says street races are something the sport should commit to wherever it is, whether it's in Chicago, San Diego, or wherever it is. If you can take what we do and put it right in the middle of the city so people can come see it and have never seen a race before, I think that can only be good for the sport. Okay. As much as I respect Justin Marks and Trackhouse Racing and what they're doing, Trackhouse is the team that owns the 1, the 88, and the 99. So it's Ross Chastain, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Daniel Suarez, who we'll talk about in a minute. I can't back this statement. Street races do nothing but disrupt the city. And you cannot, in any way, shape, or form, it's bad enough at the road races that you can't see the track. If you're in the middle of nothing, there's a bunch of fields and trees and all that stuff around you. It's bad enough that you can't see the entire track when you do that. When you're talking about doing it in a city where you cannot see the entire race. Yeah, they have screens where some of the seats are, so you might as well sit at home and watch it on TV. That's another bad aspect of the street races, or the road courses for that matter, but the street races especially. Get rid of this thing, get Chicagoland Speedway back fired up, and go that route. Don't need any of this other garbage. We need to go ahead and just move along from these street courses and just no. Cut this thing out and see what there are ovals that could definitely use either a second race or getting a race back, a Chicagoland, a Kansas, places like that. It just doesn't make any sense. So then we get into some other NASCAR news that already it has been determined that Daniel Suarez will not return to Trackhouse in 2026. There is also talk that he could be going to Legacy Motorsports, owned by Jimmy Johnson, as they're looking at getting a third car for next season. Okay, he's made the playoffs 2 of his 3 seasons. But this is the funny parts of this, because Suarez said on Saturday ahead of practice for the race, quote, "It was a lot of relief for me because I've known for several months this was going to happen. It's just like everything in life. Things change, people change, the company changes, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There just wasn't a love anymore, and there's no hard feelings at all." End quote. So, you know, Marks ended up buying Chip Ganassi Racing to get the second charter. And Suarez won his first Cup race at Sonoma, actually, in 2022. Missed the postseason in 2023, won in Atlanta last year in the closest finish in the history of NASCAR. So he had the playoffs 2 of his 3 years. But I know that Justin Marks has had his eye on Connor Zilisch, who has been running for Trackhouse in the Xfinity series and trying to bring him up next year. So there's got to, they need to try and make a spot for Connor Zilisch. Okay. But it's going to be very interesting to see that where he's going to end up, because a lot of the major rides are going to open up after the 2026 season, not the 2027 season. I'm sorry, after the 26 season, not 25. I'll get it right in a second. But I really, really think that what's going to wind up happening is we're going to get back to the time, and it's the way it used to be, where you had 42, 43 cars trying to qualify for these cup races. And some of the races had 42 or 40. The Daytona 500 used to have 43 cars. Talladega used to have 43 cars. 43 cars at Bristol, not so much. But where you literally had to qualify to get into the race. Until recently, everybody got in. Everybody that tried to qualify got in. Okay. It was just a matter of where you were positioned. Now, what's coming around the corner is you see how all things come full circle. We're getting to the point where there's so much talent in the Xfinity series and in the truck series and already in Cup. You're going to have drivers coming up and there's no place to put them. And the really interesting part is you don't have a lot of drivers in NASCAR or in Cup series that are like old enough to run out. I mean, Denny Hamlin's the old man, but he says, he's what is he, 47, 47, 48, 45. Okay. He said he wants to run till he's 50. So that's another 5 years. Um, you know, he's really the old man out of this, but Kyle Busch is 40. I think he just turned 40, or he just turned 40. And he's said that he's going to run another 3 or 4 years. He's going to run until his son is old enough to run truck series. Then he's done. When his son's 16 and is able to run truck series, he's done and going to focus his stuff on his son's racing. Okay. But that's a few years down the road. You look at this list. Michael McDowell's 41. A lot of these guys, they're just Brad Keselowski's 41. They're not old. So you're looking at a bunch of guys, and I know Jimmy is really wanting to not race near as much anymore, Jimmy Johnson. He's 50. But when you sit there and you look at it, you're not going to have guys retiring. So where are all these drivers going to go? And NASCAR is going to have to expand that field, which I'm sure they don't mind going back to eventually running 43 cars. But then you get into the thing of, are you going to be able to have sponsors for 43 cars? Are you going to be able to have enough shop facilities, garage facilities at the track's not an issue, but facilities for the 43 drivers and things of that nature. Are you going to be able to have equipment? Are you going to be? But the biggest thing is going to be the sponsorships. So it's something you got to really think about with that. Like I say, lots of news outside of the race to talk about. I know we normally don't get. There's usually not this much news going on, but by the way, that 9th place finish for Austin Hill was his first top 10 in the Cup Series. So just so that you have that in your brain. This week, in terms of the Save Mart 350, you've got the Pit Boss Food Max 250 for the Xfinity series, and then the Save Mart 350 for the Cup series. When you're doing DFS, if you're looking at fantasy, again, it's a lot of the same guys. It's SVG, it's Larson, it's Byron, it's Bush, it's Allmendinger, Reddick, guys like that. Unfortunately, DraftKings, at least DraftKings, I know FanDuel does the same thing. They adjust their figures. So Shane Van Gisbergen was the number one salary hit in DraftKings. He was like 12,000 points. It was almost a quarter of your $50,000 salary cap. But the man won the race. Having a guy like a Larson or somebody like that. Then you also can look at guys like, if an Austin Hill comes in again at Sonoma, Austin Hill's a very good road course driver. If Justin Allgaier ends up running, you can get him pretty cheap. There's several of those guys that you can get cheap that can make it easier for you to get those higher up guys. You just got to keep an eye on things. I definitely, the Xfinity guys that know what they're doing on road courses are big guys to get because they won't make stupid mistakes, but they're still going to be running pretty well for you in those races. So in this coming week, again, Saturday, it's the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. We don't have another truck race, excuse me, until July 25th. Goodness. They're going to forget how to run those trucks when it's all said and done. But they've only got a couple races until they hit the playoff point, and it's gonna be interesting for them. We'll see. They've got the Indianapolis Raceway Park on July 25th. Then they go road course racing at Watkins Glen on August 8th. And then the final race before the playoffs is the Richmond race. There will be a 3-race weekend there. And then we get the playoffs. And it's, 10 guys. Right now they've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, scratch that. Right now they've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got 7 drivers with wins in the point standings. So there's 3 spots available. Caden Honeycutt, Grant Enfinger, and Ty Majeski would have those right now. But there's a lot of guys out there that can win races that haven't yet. So the next 3 races are going to be pretty fun for that truck series. We'll see what happens there. Other stuff going on this week. There was apparently a Formula One race. And looks like old Mr. Piastri was penalized, thrown out, kicked off the podium. Boy, what's going on?
Holy cow, my audio just went down a ton. I don't know why.
Uh-oh. What's the matter with your boy Piastri, man?
He had a 10-second time penalty for braking under safety car conditions. And that caused my other guy, Max Verstappen, to lose his stuff and spin out, going from P2 to P10.
For those of you that aren't familiar, that's position 2 to position 10. So it went from 2nd to 10th.
Alright. Oh no, I exited out. Hold on. Alright, let's get started. So, a little bit of a disclaimer here. I did spend the 5th of July, a Saturday, at my friend's house, so I was tired for the race. I missed half of it because I fell asleep. So, okay. Starting from the bottom. Franco Colapinto did not start the race because of a Q1 accident, which is qualifying one. I don't know how to explain it anyway. It goes Q1, Q2, Q3. So Franco Colapinto finished. He did not get a lap. No, actually he did. He started last. So he did not start in the race because he stalled out in the pit lane. Then we have Liam Lawson, he did not finish because of a lap 1 incident where he crashed with Esteban Ocon. Then we have Gabriel Bortoleto, who did not finish because he spun out and went into the barriers and had like a bunch of rear wing damage. So he went on, and then he had too much damage, so he had to retire, which causes a virtual safety car. Then we have Isaac Hadroy, who did not finish because it was pouring down rain. He crashed right into the rear of Andrea Kimi Antonelli, which caused him to spin out and go into the barriers, ending his race. Then a lap later, Kimi Antonelli retired because of damages to his rear wing. Yuki Tsunoda had a 10-second time penalty, so he finished a lap down. Charles Leclerc, driving for a Ferrari, had a terrible race. Absolutely terrible. Finishing P14th. Esteban Ocon finished P13th. Him and Behrman had a little spin. Carlos Sainz finished 12th. Oliver Behrman finished 11th. George Russell finished 10th. Fernando Alonso finished 9th. Alex Albon finished 8th. Lance Stroll finished 7th. He was running in the top 3, but he had a bad pit stop. Pierre Gasly 6th. Max Verstappen finished 5th, as I said earlier, because he spun from 2nd down to 10th. He had a great recovery to 5th. Lewis Hamilton finished 4th, ending his 15-year consecutive podium streak at Silverstone. Speaking of 15 years, Nico Hülkenberg had his first podium finish after 239 races, 15 years of chasing it. He finally got it. He started P19th and he finished P3. Absolutely incredible drive. In second place, we have Oscar Piastri, who had a 10-second time penalty because of a safety car infringement. And then Lando Norris won the race. I call it a gifted win because a 10-second time penalty seems a little bit too strict. So, I haven't talked about this much, but let's go with the drivers' standings. Dead last, we have Franco Colapinto with 0 points. We have Gabriel Bortoleto with 4. Behrman with 6. Yuki Tsunoda in 10th. Liam Lawson in 16th. Carlos Sainz in 15th. Fernando Alonso in 16th. Pierre Gasly in 13th. Lance Stroll in 20th. Isaac Hadjar in 21. Esteban Ocon with 23. Nico Hülkenberg with 37. That podium really did him a lot of points for both Kick Sauber and himself. Alex Albon with 46. Kimi Antonelli with 63 points. Lewis Hamilton with 103. Charles Leclerc with 119. George Russell with 147. He has 1 win. Max Verstappen, he has 2 wins with 165. Lando Norris with 226 and Oscar Piastri with 234. So it's an 8-point difference between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. So we could see a fight throughout the rest of the season from those two. And as for the Constructors' Championships, Alpine with 19, Haas with 29, Aston Martin with 36, Racing Rules with 36 also. In 6th, we have Kick Sauber with 41. In 5th, we have Williams with 59. In 4th, we have Red Bull Racing with 172. In 3rd, we have Mercedes with 210. In second, we have Ferrari with 222, and with McLaren, we have 460 points. So they have a dominant lead in the constructors and drivers, so it's a no-brainer. One of them two should win. The drivers, and they're gonna obviously win the constructors unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong.
I mean, when you got a 70-point lead for one guy and a 60-point lead for the other one, unless they just completely wet the bed, uh, and allow Verstappen back in. But I really don't see that happening for two guys. If it was one guy and they hit a really bad stretch like what William Byron's got going in NASCAR, Verstappen might be able to catch him. But to catch two of them, that's going to be tough. And having the top two, I mean, yeah, you're right. McLaren, again, unless they just both completely fall apart, you know. So, but yeah, it's going to be a fun rest of the season for those guys going down to 1 and 2. Appreciate you giving us that heads up and keeping us up to date on all that. Um, it's getting close to that time. We're a few races away from the playoffs in NASCAR. We're getting down to just a few races in Formula One, a few races in IndyCar. It's going to be a fun next few months as we crown championships in the auto racing world. So, Josh, appreciate you coming on. Definitely appreciate everybody that's been catching the broadcast tonight. Don't forget, tomorrow night, whole bunch of us get together and we just chop it up about all things sports. It is open mic night tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. We will be getting into the last week we did the best player for each AFC team all time. This week, it's the best NFC player for each team all time. Once again, there's a couple of teams that's going to be very obvious. There's the rest of the teams that it's going to be a topic of discussion. So check us out for that. And then Wednesday night, myself and Adam, we do Steel City Sports Talk. Lots to talk about between the Steelers and the Pirates, including the All-Star game, including OTAs for the Steelers and some moves that they've made recently, how it's going to affect the team. So lots to talk about there as well. And of course, any of the other things that we're doing at Driving to the Top, it would take me from now till tomorrow to list it all. We've got all kind of different things going on, depending on where your area of fandom lies. So make sure and check us out here on YouTube or on Twitter or Facebook. Make sure and hit us up. You hit me up on Twitter, Big Rich 8371, or on Facebook under my name, Rich Richardson. Love to get your questions, comments, and love to get the conversation started. So if you like the show, if there's something you'd like to see me do more of or less of, let me know. It's one of those things where, no harm, no foul. I don't get offended. I don't go off on people and that kind of stuff. I definitely want to hear what y'all think about the program and see what you think. So next week, right back here, 7 Eastern, 6 Central at Driving to the Top Productions, man. It is going to be another edition of Two Tire Change. Josh, I appreciate you, man. And we'll do it again next week. Until next Monday, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, my name is Rich Richardson. So long, everybody.